Is Henry Cavill's new gig as cool as the one where he donned the red cape? Cavill announced that he was hanging up his Superman costume after Warner announced it was taking Superman in a new direction that will be headed by DC studio heads Peter Safran and James Gunn. But he's now going to executive produce and star in a Warhammer 40,000 series adaptation. Stay with us as we explore what this Amazon deal is all about, and also why Henry Cavill would want to star in Warhammer 40,000. First up, it's been announced, but no showrunners or writers are attached yet. Natalie Viscuso and Roy Lee from Vertigo Entertainment teamed up with Cavill to secure the rights for Warhammer 40,000 and then deliver them to Amazon. Gauze Max Bottrell and Andy Simile will co-produce with Vertigo and Cavill, and all of this will happen with Amazon Studios. Simile, the creative director at GAW, said the news is great and everybody involved is thrilled. Henry loves Warhammer 40,000 and is a passionate storyteller. These factors, according to Simile, will serve the production well in years to come. This is finally the opportunity to bring Warhammer to the screen in the way fans had hoped it would materialize, and also in the way they deserve. Warhammer is similar to Dungeons & Dragons. It's played with dice and intricate miniatures that are moved around a model world or battlefield. The game was launched in 1987 and has grown into the most popular miniature war game around the globe. The game is set 40,000 years into the future. Things are dark. There is no progress in human civilization, and an unending alien war is raging. Magical beings are involved, and gods and demons figure into some kind of theological class structure. The militaristic Imperium of Man is made up of humans, and the Necron, a race of skeleton-like androids, Tyranids, a race of nasty aliens, Tau, an alien race with blue skins that offer some hope, and the Eldari, a race of elvish beings, make up the rest of the creatures in the story. Cavill has long been a Warhammer fan. He paints figures as a hobby. The project is in the really early stages at the moment, so it'll probably not be his first post-Superman gig. The scale of the production will be huge. All the big genre elements of fantasy and sci-fi are combined, and this is what makes the moment so special for Cavill. He said he couldn't say thank you enough for all the hard labor that came from Vertigo. He is thrilled at the opportunity to shepherd this universe from its inception, and is honored to be trusted with the responsibility. Cavill added that it's a lifelong dream come true for him. Curious about what we can expect from Warhammer 40K? Keep watching, we're bringing you that in a moment. Okay, but what is Warhammer 40,000, and why would Cavill want to star in it? With roles like Geralt of Rivia and the Man of Steel under his belt, stepping into the shoes of an executive producer seems like the logical next career step. The cinematic Warhammer universe will be his to shape, while also being its first big star. The question is, what would one of Hollywood's most bankable stars want to bring Warhammer to life, and what character would he choose to play? Firstly, Warhammer finds its origins in a gaming tradition that includes historical battles fought with miniatures. Warhammer takes place on huge tables. There are dozens, sometimes more than 100 hand-painted miniature figures that do battle in a scale model terrain. The joy of the game is not only in playing, but also in the hobby labor of making those pieces as dramatic, unique, and intricate as humanly possible. The Warhammer universe, as it's known by players today, was originally created by Games Workshop, a British game manufacturer. They started doing business in 1975. Warhammer Fantasy is the older of the two main branches of the game. The setting here is high fantasy, and it's all about sorcery and swords. Warhammer 40,000, or 40K, is the more popular of the two. The Warhammer 40K branch of the game was born as a political satire in the 80s, and this is the branch that piqued Cavill's interest. It's also where he'll start the creation of a Warhammer cinematic universe. Now, more about what we can expect from Warhammer 40K. Warhammer 40K is set in the 41st millennium. Humanity is only a nominal focus of the lore and the story. The whole milieu is dark and post-apocalyptic. Society is entrapped in another dark age. An authoritarian warlord with psychic abilities rules everything. He is known as the God Emperor of mankind. Ignorance has poisoned the culture of man, and billions of people support an unimaginably large war with their blood, sweat, and tears. The dark atmosphere of Warhammer 40K has attracted storytellers of all stripes. Some have adapted 40K to video games, others have made books, and yet others have produced comics. Games Workshop even launched its own subscription TV service, Warhammer TV. No, zealous, bureaucratic, and deeply corrupt humanity is in a never-ending war with the panoply of similarly corrupt threats. Many of Warhammer's storylines are constructed around clashes with powerful orcs, chitinous insect hordes, space communists, and alien intellects. However, chaos is humanity's biggest threat. This is a magical force, and it's more than able to corrupt entire planets to turn their denizens into violent self-annihilation cults. The Space Marines are 8 feet tall all. They're super soldiers from inhabitable worlds all across the 40K galaxy. These brainwashed child soldiers don armor powered by the fantastical. And while there are tens of thousands of individual Marines connected to hundreds of Space Marine chapters, most humans will never see one in their lives. There is so much material that could go into the storylines of Warhammer 40K. Stay with us. We'll tell you about some of the possible scenarios. Also, there's the Imperial Guard. The Imperial Guard are normal humans. They're either conscripted into the Imperial Army or enlisted of their own free will. They come from all across the Empire, and the forces are a representation of the nationalities and nations we'll recognize today. The Russians are there, as are the French, Indian, and British units. Transhumanism has been fully embraced by a sect of humanity called the Adeptus Mechanicus. Their headquarters are on Mars, and as a super dedicated religious grouping, they are dedicated to the machine spirit. Most of humanity's technological advancements over 10 millennia can be ascribed to the Adeptus Mechanicus. The Inquisition is super powerful. This is an organization inside the Empire of Mankind. They're 100% dedicated to rooting out every possible kind of heresy against the God Emperor. Inquisitors work secretly around space, running down conspiracies. This group is often at odds with the forces of chaos, who work tirelessly behind the scenes to destroy, or at least undermine the Empire. Meanwhile, what storylines can we expect from Warhammer 40K? The publishing imprint of Games Workshop has a list of more than 200 books that cover all aspects of the brand, and this includes Warhammer Fantasy. The imprint is officially known as Black Library, and is home to a plethora of story arcs that represent the brand. Any one of those could be fleshed out into a cinema feature, or even the beginning of a TV franchise. The Horus Heresy, for instance, has more than 60 books in total. It tells of how the God Emperor started the Space Marines, and of the 31st Millennium Fratricidal War that brought about the state of chaos that reigns in the year 40,000. Then there's the Inquisition series. Dan Abnett wrote these, and they tell of Gideon Ravenor, Elizabeth Bequin, and Gregor Eisenhorn, three Inquisitors who work against an intricate chaos plot that plans to destroy the Imperium. So here you have to imagine the young Pope meets Sherlock Holmes meets Blade Runner, and then add a pinch of Denzel Washington and a smattering of Training Day with Ethan Hawke. That should put you in the wheelhouse. Bernard Cornwell wrote a series called Sharp's Rifles that was turned into a TV series with Sean Bean in 1993. These stories were the inspiration for the Warhammer Gaunt's Ghost storylines. This is perhaps the pulpiest of the Warhammer series, and has the political officer and military leader, Ibram Gaunt, as the central character. He is in command of the Tanith First and Only, an Imperial Guard regiment of men and women who get into fixes with impossible odds. Just exactly how big can something like the Warhammer universe become? Keep watching until the end of the video. We're bringing you that shortly. Then, who would Henry Cavill choose to play in the 40K universe? Fans have already wanted to cast Cavill as the God Emperor of Mankind. That character is quite literally a living corpse though, and it would probably not be his choice. That is unless the Horus Heresy is the story of focus. It would probably make more all-around sense to cast Cavill as Horus Lupercal. He's an arch traitor in the novels. Or Cavill could be a heroic space marine, Garviel Loken, who takes up arms against his rebellious brothers in arms. Amazon will probably tread carefully with this new undertaking though. It'll probably tell smaller, less involved stories to start with, before attempting to create an epic along the lines of Dune or Star Wars, in which case Cavill could be Inquisitor Eisenhorn or Commissar Gaunt. We're putting our money on Eisenhorn at this stage. It places the narrative close to the centers of power in the 40K universe, and ultimately allows for way more tie-ins and follow-on stories. And finally, how big can this cinematic universe become? Remember, 40K is not the entire potential of the Warhammer cinematic universe by a long shot. Games Workshop really wants you to remember this. They made their own announcement recently, saying the Pantheon of Gods in 40K could become the bridge that brings other science fiction fans into a high fantasy setting, and vice versa. There are plenty of sub-brands too, with Necromunda or Blood Bowl easily able to provide the launchpad for additional motion pictures or TV series. The bottom line is this: Games Workshop is already one of the most successful companies in tabletop gaming, and it's sitting on a literal goldmine of IP. Now with Cavill as the figurehead, this thing could go a lot farther than we could anticipate at this stage. And with all that, that's a wrap for this video. Don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.